Hello, my name is Dahlia Williams and I'm an associate publisher for F1000. In this webinar, I will cover open peer review, including its key features, how it works on F1000 platforms, and what you should know as an author publishing with F1000's post-publication open peer review model. Open research broadly refers to making academic research freely accessible to everyone, including the public. The aim of open research is to increase trust in science, support reproducible and robust research, and increase accessibility and reuse of research outputs. Open access is probably the most well-known aspect of open research and has two main elements: making content freely available to everyone and making it reusable by third parties. Open access removes subscription paywall barriers by making research freely available, and this doesn't just benefit researchers, it allows practitioners, policymakers, and the public to access the latest research without financial or technical barriers. Open data is another key aspect of open research and means that all data is freely available to everyone to use and reuse. This allows the verification of scientific claims by allowing others to look at the reproducibility of results and to allow data from many sources to be integrated for new research. Other aspects of open research are using open source technology and using open methods by documenting the application of methods as well as the entire process behind the work as far as is practicable and relevant. Finally, open peer review is an umbrella term for a variety of ways that peer review models can be adapted in line with open research, including making reviewer and author identities open, publishing review reports, and enabling greater participation in the peer review process. It offers transparent and traceable quality assurance. Open peer review addresses several issues with the traditional peer review process. Firstly, it can increase accountability. The increased transparency offered by open identities and reports can increase accountability and make reviewer conflicts of interest more apparent. It can also reduce bias by having open reports which allow the scientific community to examine how publication decisions were made. It can also minimize inconsistency by having open identities and open reports. It can improve the quality of reviews, encouraging reviewers to be more thorough in their assessments. It gives reviewers more incentives. If review reports are published alongside reviewer names, it is easier for researchers to claim credit for these activities, therefore incentivizing review. And finally, it prevents wasted effort. Rather than hiding the useful contextual information contained in peer review, open reports make this available. This diagram shows how our post-publication open peer review model works across the F1000 platforms, with open peer review integral to the process. After you submit your article through our single-page submission system, our in-house team of professional editors will carry out comprehensive pre-publication checks to ensure that all policies and ethical guidelines are adhered to. Once the article has passed the pre-publication checks, a fully typeset version is published with a DOI, enabling immediate viewing and citation, as well as indexing in Google Scholar. Once the article is published, it cannot be sent to another journal for publication. Expert reviewers are then invited for peer review by our in-house editorial team. Once peer review is complete, reviewer comments and names are published alongside the article, together with author responses and comments from registered users. Authors are encouraged to publish revised versions of their article where changes have been requested, and all versions of an article are linked and independently citable. Finally, articles that pass peer review are then sent to major indexing databases and repositories such as PubMed and Scopus. Open peer review at F1000 has several unique features. It has open identities, meaning reviewers must provide their name and affiliation, which is published alongside the article. Conflicts of interest need to be declared openly, and ORCIDs are captured and shared. Reviewer reports are published alongside the article, and reviews have a DOI, are citable, and include real-time viewing metrics. We also have open review statuses, meaning reviewers must provide a narrative report and assign a public status to the article. We have 3 review statuses that reviewers can award on the platform. One is called approved, which means that no or only minor changes are required. For original research, this means that the aims and research methods are adequate, results are presented accurately, and the conclusions are justified and supported by the presented data or supporting material. Reviewers may suggest small changes to improve the article or correct minor errors, but these changes will not affect the peer review status. Our approved with reservation status means that the reviewer believes the article has academic merit, but has asked for a number of small changes to the article or specific, sometimes more significant revisions. Reviewers should have made clear that the changes requested are necessary for an approved status to be awarded. The not approved status means that the article in its current form has issues that seriously undermine the findings and conclusions of the article. Crucial substantial revisions will be required for the paper to pass peer review. It is important to note that a not approved status is not a rejection. It is possible to improve an article status from not approved to approved upon publication of a new version. Peer review of articles on F1000 platforms takes place after publication. Once the article is published, expert reviewers are formally invited to review under our open peer review model. To improve the consistency of definitions and terminology in peer review, F1000 uses the NISO standard terminology for peer review. To summarize our peer review process as having identity transparency, which means that peer review at F1000 occurs on a published version of the article, with the author's full names and affiliations available to reviewers and readers. Peer reviewer names and affiliations are also published alongside their peer review reports. If multiple people write a peer review report, they can all be named. F1000 reviewers interact with editors, other reviewers, and authors. Peer reviewers are invited to review by the F1000 team, who also provide support to them throughout the process. Reviewers are also able to read any existing peer review reports for the article and respond to them using the comments section if they choose. The review information published includes review reports, the published paper, and reviewer identities. The most recently published version of the article is the version currently undergoing peer review, and when a peer review report is submitted, it undergoes an editorial check to ensure that it meets the peer reviewer code of conduct. It's then published alongside the reviewer's full names and affiliations. The peer review report is assigned a DOI and is citable independently of the article. Finally, F1000 has a comment system that can be used for open academic discussion between the authors, reviewers, and readers. Comments should focus on the scholarly content presented in the article with which they are associated. After your paper passes our pre-publication checks and you are happy with the proofs after our production process, your paper will be published online. At this point, the editorial team will identify and invite suitable reviewers. However, as an author, you can also suggest your own reviewers and also nominate opposed reviewers where appropriate. If you would like to suggest reviewers, we'd ask you to adhere to our reviewer criteria, which I will go into on the next slide, and we also ask you not to contact peer reviewers directly about the peer review process. If our editorial team still cannot secure sufficient reviewers after 50 invitations, we will reach out to you as an author to ask for reviewer suggestions. We encourage authors to revise and respond to their reviewers after receiving 2 peer review reports. This includes revising your article to address questions or minor errors identified in reviews awarding approved statuses. Authors should also provide a direct point-by-point response to each reviewer when you submit the revised article version. The response should explain how each of the reviewer comments have been addressed in the revisions. This really helps the original reviewers when it comes to re-reviewing your article. When a new version is published, the original reviewers are re-invited to review, and reviewers can then publish an updated report taking the revisions into account. Reviewers are especially encouraged to re-review if they had originally given an approved with reservations or a not approved status, as they are asked to assess whether the work has been sufficiently improved to achieve a better approval status. At this point, reviewers may update the peer review status awarded to an article, or if there are unresolved issues, authors will be encouraged to revise again. All versions of the article and all peer review reports will remain published so that anyone may see the history of the article. As I mentioned previously, the editorial team will identify and invite suitable reviewers for your paper. However, as an author, you are also able to suggest potential reviewers. You can suggest reviewers who you know are experts in their fields, and we also provide a tool which uses an algorithm to suggest potential reviewers who have published on the topic in the article. Authors are asked not to contact peer reviewers directly about the peer review process. If you would like to suggest reviewers, we'd ask you to adhere to the following reviewer criteria. Firstly, the reviewer should be appropriately qualified. Reviewers should typically hold a doctorate or equivalent. Exceptions will be made for scholarly disciplines where doctorates are not necessary, for example, education or library science, or when an individual has a demonstrable public record of expertise. If possible, when a reviewer suggestion is rejected due to lack of qualifications, the editorial team will suggest that their principal investigator or supervisor is invited instead, and the original person could then take the role of co-reviewer. Secondly, the reviewer should be an expert in their field. Reviewers should have published at least 3 articles as lead author in a relevant topic, with at least 1 article having been published in the last 5 years. In fields where a reviewer's expertise is not typically measured by their publication record, or if a suggested reviewer's expertise is demonstrable in ways other than their publication record, we'd ask authors to provide an explanation of their suitability. Thirdly, the reviewer should be impartial. Reviewers should not have any competing interests that can bias their assessment of the article. They should not be your close collaborator or be personally associated with you as an author. For example, a reviewer should not have co-authored with any of the lead authors on your article in the 3 years preceding publication of version 1. They should also have not co-authored with any of the lead authors since the publication of version 1. They should also not currently work at the same institution as the authors or be a close collaborator with any of the authors. We understand that in small or specialized fields of research, it may not be possible to suggest reviewers who have not collaborated with you. If that is the case, please do let us know. Finally, reviewer suggestions should be global. For any given article, we require that reviewers are from different institutions, although this doesn't apply to large multi-site institutions like the Max Planck Institutes or University of California. We also strongly encourage that geographically diverse reviewers are invited to review to gain an international perspective on the article. In cases where we receive multiple reviewer suggestions from the same country, the editorial team can only invite one of these reviewers at a time. If you feel that our standard reviewer criteria are not appropriate for your area of research, please do let us know. On the slide, you can see an example of an article that's passed peer review. An article is considered to have been sufficiently reviewed when it has received 2 peer review reports. If an article has not passed peer review at this stage, as it hasn't in version 1 here shown on the slide, authors will be strongly encouraged to revise their paper and respond to their reviewers by publishing a new version, as they did here with version 2. An article is considered to have passed peer review when at least 2 approved statuses or 1 approved status and 2 approved with reservation statuses have been awarded. In this case, 2 approved reviews were given to the revised version 2. The paper has passed peer review and will be indexed in major databases like PubMed and Scopus. On the slide is an example of how your article might look after going through our open peer review process. You can see the reviewer name affiliations and the review statuses awarded are publicly visible on the page. And if you click on the review statuses, the full review is made visible on the right-hand side. You can also see article versioning in action with version 1 and version 2, showing how the article develops following peer review. The review report is fully citable and you can see the author response as well. A summary of the review status is also visible underneath the article's title. In this case, the article has received 2 approved reviews and has therefore passed peer review. Thank you for listening to this webinar about open peer review and how it works on F1000 platforms. For any questions, please contact editorial@f1000research.com.